In this segment, we're going to continue our approach that I've been thinking of as that old adage, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. The segments that we're doing on how to choose what's most important to do successful Montessori education in a homeschooling setting, in a school, in a home. The next piece that I'd like to do is address another one of the pitfalls that I have found happens when people aren't doing Montessori in a way that works. And the reason that I say that I relate this to the little saying about fishing is that if you know how to approach preempting problems in the Montessori classroom or finding the solutions when the problems do come up, that's what's going to allow you to be successful over time. I believe that many, if not most, of the Montessori training programs in the United States and even throughout the world do a wonderful job in at least some areas. And one of the areas that they tend to do a pretty good job for the most part is in lesson presentations. How do you use the Montessori materials? And they do a good job in a lot of other things, perhaps laying out how a prepared environment should look beyond just putting Montessori materials on shelves. One of the areas that I believe is a little bit lacking in training programs, based mostly on the feedback that I've gotten from people who have been through training programs that I consider to be good, is in this kind of way of thinking through the day-to-day needs of a Montessori program, the month-to-month needs, and the year-to-year needs. And the reason that I say that is, if you are going to avoid the pitfalls that happen in Montessori education, you're going to have to do some long-term planning as well as making those moment-to-moment decisions in the classroom that keep everything moving smoothly, that make it possible for there to be an atmosphere that supports those children working. Remember, that's the bottom line. Dr. Montessori said that work is what normalizes the child. If you don't care for that Montessori term, think of it as that work is what feeds the child's inner self, feeds the soul, their personality, however you want to think about it. I know different words resonate with different people, and that's the reason that I use them. What I'm going to invite you right now to think about what it is you want to serve. What is it that you want to come out of doing Montessori? Is it a healthy human being that contributes in society? If so, what does that little being need to become that person? That's the bottom line in Montessori from my perspective, and that's what all of these strategies that I'm offering you are about. How do we keep that going? So the pitfall that I'd like to address in this segment is failing to ask the right questions, especially in this day and age where there is Montessori information that I would never have dreamed would have been available to anyone who has an internet connection 20 years ago. It's all out there. So if you are asking the right questions, the likelihood that you can find the answers, even if it is literally asking the question on a Montessori discussion board, it's very high. So it's really important that you make sure that that's happening. And the reason that I put it in a pitfall is that I found that there are way too many people who take a different approach, either working only from habit or working only from a model that they've been given. I would suggest you can't do that and do Montessori. You can't be in the classroom and be that dynamic resource that serves the ever-changing needs of each individual child in the Montessori classroom and that community that's changing and dynamic. In order to be the prepared adult that can really be part of that prepared environment, you have to be prepared to make moment-to-moment decisions. And one of the ways you have to do that is by asking the right questions. Possibly in the midst of the classroom, but more likely during your reflection time. Every effective Montessori training program that I am aware of teaches that you must take that reflection time after you've made your observations in the classroom. So you're in the classroom, you're noticing what's going on, whether it is an incidental observation or a formal observation where you're sitting, notebook or computer in hand, just seeing what you see and recording your observations. However you are doing them, and I hope it's a combination of those two, after you have those observations, you then reflect back on them, either by sitting and reviewing your notes or by healthy practices that will allow you to just allow those observations to come to mind. If you're taking a walk and you've been noticing that Child A has been doing this same behavior every day for 5 days, during your walk, reflecting upon that, it's very, very possible that at least potential solutions will come to you if you're asking the right questions. So what are the right questions? Well, one of the right questions from my perspective is, what's the most important thing for me to be doing right now? So you'll see I'm interweaving these pitfalls and setting priorities strategies quite a bit because they're not cut and dried. I think for some people it's easier to think about them in one way or another, so I'm going to be offering a lot of the things I think you should be doing and structuring them in different ways. So in the way that I'd like to suggest that you think about asking the right questions, I think you need to go back to that triad. What needs my attention right now? The child, my own personal preparation, or the preparation of other environments in our school community, the preparation of other adults in our school community, or preparation of the physical environment itself. That should always be one of those overarching questions that you ask when a problem comes up. So if there is a problem, where can you solve it? Looking at those 3 areas and always starting with the environment is one of the ways to find those solutions. The reason that I say that is the way that is least intrusive to the children, that you can make changes and that you can influence them, is by making changes in the environment. So that's why I always suggest that you start there. So the first question is, where do I act? Which of these places do I need to put my attention? Now I'm going to give you some other suggestions for important questions to ask. In the training program that I have put together, I have a kind of an outline of a way to approach Montessori for someone working with children in an environment for children ages 3 to 6, a school environment. I would say it would only work for people working in an elaborate home Montessori environment for children those ages that does include a lot of the materials. But one of the things that I suggest that as you're evaluating how to do observations and presentations, you need to ask the right questions. And some of those questions are, at what level are we working? Is it a simple, I just need to make sure that the child has a stool so they can reach the bathroom sink, and that's going to solve the problems we've had with hand washing? If that's the level you're working at, that's what you need to know. If it is a level of having to go in and retrain or have a very deep discussion with an adult who maybe is being intrusive, hopefully without ever intending to in the classroom, you're working at a very different level. What perception ability or motor skill is needed? So let's go back to that same example. We've got a problem with children washing hands. Maybe they're getting water all over the floor in the bathroom. Again, is it that they just can't reach the faucet to use it properly, so they're turning it on too hard? Or is it a perception skill or a motor skill? Do they have the motor ability to turn the water on just the right amount? Are they noticing how much they're turning the water on? You just need to guide their perception a little bit. What information storage or retrieval skill is needed? Is the child just forgetting? Maybe you need a little sign that's stuck on the mirror. And I'm kind of assuming at this point that you have a restroom that maybe you had to adapt a little bit. Maybe you did have to put a sink in for the children to be able to reach it, and you weren't able to just build a bathroom that's child-sized from the beginning. So maybe you need a little sign on the mirror, and maybe it has a little picture of the stool to remind them to make sure they're standing on the stool. Or maybe it has a little picture of the water water coming in a very small stream out of the faucet to remind them to make sure that they turn the water on in just the right amount. These are just some reasons, some examples that I'm giving you of how if you're asking the right questions, you're much more likely to come up with the solutions that you need. And then, what is your leverage point, point of influence, linchpin of opportunity right now? Now, we will talk about some of these in other episodes, but this is a way to think about how you're going to make the most impact with the smallest amount of effort. And this is important for several reasons. The more that you're doing, the more likely that other things that need your attention are not going to get done, or you're going to shortchange your own self-care, neither of which we want. The other thing is, the more that you're doing, the more likely that you're going to be intruding on a child or taking over time that they could be spending making their own choices, and thus making it more likely that they're going to engage in that concentrated work that creates that level of concentration that really, really serves them. So I'm going to mention just pivot points, pitfalls, and leverage points. So a pivot point is a place of shifting. This is one of those things like the transitions in your classroom. Maybe one of the things you know is you have a student that comes from a very loud home. If that child comes from a loud home, use that pivot point. Use that transition when they first come in to help them reset to the voice level that's appropriate in your classroom. That's an example of a pivot point. What about a pitfall? Well, that's what this whole element of the discussion that we're having is about. So I want to define it for you just a little bit at this point. A pitfall is a place where things can fall apart. It's a place where if you're not paying attention, a lot of your efforts can go for naught. So it's really important to be looking ahead, to be noticing where are those potential pitfalls so that you can avoid them. And the last one that I was going to mention, obstacles. These are things that are going to hold you back. An important obstacle is if the children can't access the things in the environment. If you don't have that stool so that they can get to the sink and do their hand washing in an independent way, that's an obstacle. So if you are scanning for obstacles, this is one of the ways that you're going to stay focused on preparing the environment properly and influencing the child through the environment, so you're being intrusive in as little ways as you possibly can. If you're not looking out for those kinds of obstacles, you're going to be more likely to be reactive. You're going to be more likely to just address the problem directly with the child and possibly not handle it as well as you could, as if you had been looking on the lookout for the obstacles, the pitfalls, and making the best use of things like transition points. I hope you will spend some of your reflective time on this idea that if you attempt to notice the pitfalls ahead of time, that you will be able to avoid them. And one of the most important ways to avoid pitfalls is by asking the right questions. What level are we working? Where are my transition points, my key points of influence? What are the obstacles that are going to get in the way? What are the pitfalls in this particular situation? If you're asking yourself these questions and then you're going back to that question of where do I need to be putting my attention with the child directly, always the last one in some ways, with the preparation of the adult or with the environment, if you're asking yourself the right questions, the likelihood that you are going to reach the right answers goes way up. So I wish you success as you prepare the environment and serve the children in Montessori education. Chuck, you've got something, very special and unique that you're going to show us today. But before you do that, tell us a little bit about your company and the range of what you offer Montessori teachers.
Oh, I'm with Bruins Montessori, where our manufacturing plant is located in Sri Lanka, and they have been manufacturing material for approximately 35 years. We have our distribution centers located in Dallas, Texas, and we've been at our new location since 2003. We carry pretty much a full line of the wooden materials. We do not do much in the printed material, but most everything in the wooden material. The item I'm going to show today is the compass rose, and also known as boxing the compass. Boxing is a navigational term for the naming of the 32 points of the compass in order. It reflects the ancient practice of putting the compass inside a box. Modern compasses now have 16 points. With the boxing of the compass, we do the cardinal points, which are the north, east, south, and west. We do the inner cardinal points and the fine cardinal points. The first lesson with this material is to set the compass rose with the inner star set to the north, south, east, and west. You would not have these here, but you would have these 3 or 4 pieces on the table. You would say the location is north, and you would put north. Your next location would be east, east. Next location, south, and this likewise with the west. This shows the cardinal points of the compass. The next lesson then will be to show the inner cardinal points. You would start off going north, northeast, east, southeast, south, southwest, west, northwest. And those are your inner cardinal. The next lesson is to learn the inner cardinal, which you're going to start with north, north, northeast, northeast, east, northeast, east, east, southeast, south, south, southeast, south, south, southwest, southwest, west, southwest, then west, west, northwest, northwest, north, northwest, and then back to north. This shows the 16 points of the compass. With this lesson, we also offer the black line drawings, so the children can learn to make their own out of using paper plates. The instructor who developed this for us, that's how she originally had done it, and she had done it for 10 or 15 years using paper plates. And so these all come with lessons. And there are a number of extensions also included within the lessons. It has instructions that come with it because we do sell at a lot of public schools who don't have the Montessori background. So do you have that?
Chuck, that's great. This is a wonderful addition to the cultural materials in the map area. Thanks so much.
And thank you.
Hi, I'm Helen DeVere. I am the director of the Educational Resource Company. It was formerly the Early Education Company started by Anne Burke-Newbert, and we're going to expand it into the elementary years and different things. So we have a new name. It's been started, but we have all of her boxes that she created, her clear containers. We have the 100-board container, which still is the most popular. Her containers for all of the math and sensorial works, and also for language, and some of her latest for the making of the sandpaper letter containers so that you can separate them out into sets. What we've done in our catalog is to give you the sizes on all of the containers, so if you have another purpose for them, we're happy to still sell them to you, and you can decide for yourself. So our catalog has the sizes. We had specials here at the conference, and we will continue to do that. We're getting the website ready now, and we will notify anyone. The email is educationalresourcecomp@gmail.com at the moment, and you can contact us, get catalogs, and just see. We are also going to be selling Anne Newbert's books. Her Understanding the Child, the Management of the Classroom, is one that is available now. We have a way of learning in Spanish, and we will have the way of learning in English revised very soon. We also are going to be having many other materials that you might be interested in, so contacting us would be a way to find out what we're doing right now.
One of the things that I have found over the years is that almost all classroom educators in the Montessori classroom need some help now and then. And particularly as the Montessori program, the Montessori way of education is growing in popularity with parents in our public schools, with charter schools it's becoming very popular as a charter school to open in the states that have these as an option for parents. I'm seeing more and more need for someone to come in and help classroom educators do their best and still have a life. One of the ways that we have to make sure that we take care of our educators is by having them be as efficient and effective as they can be in the classroom so that they've got time to renew themselves, to rest. And one of the ways that that can happen is by helping them realize what's most important. That is one of the best ways that a consultant, a mentor for a classroom educator can come in and help them to do their best. Now, over the years, I have done consulting at different schools in Utah, California, some other places, and what I am finding is that it's very challenging, particularly for the schools and the classrooms that need consultations the most to be able to afford them. Also, we are seeing more and more parts of the United States and parts of the world embracing Montessori education when they don't have established schools, much less established training centers. So who is going to support them? Who's going to help them get that important information that they need to succeed? Well, I believe that a Montessori Consulting Co Op is the way to do this. What we have put together is a way to have several different resources working together with a group of schools sharing a Montessori consultant or a group of consultants. Now, one of the ways that this, I believe, will be more effective than consulting in a traditional way is because of all the different ways that the classroom educators as well as Montessori administrators can get the resources they need when they need them.